Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic host of Bachelor Nation News. No, this isn't a repeat story. We've actually got Dean's ex again on another podcast. Turns out Blake also dated her. They're going to talk about it. Hey, no problem. She's got a type, and it's guys that have been on The Bachelor or are currently The Bachelor. A lot of people say, well, how is it this incestual that they all know each other? That's just how it all works. So obviously Dean and Blake have their own history we'll talk about with Caitlyn, and we'll get into this Caitlyn 2.0. Some are saying they look very much alike. But Dean had said on the podcast last week, she'll either win or she will be the next Bachelorette. So let's jump right into it. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and don't forget to like this video. It's that 1 week between Bachelor in Paradise and Michelle season The Bachelor, and then we go straight through all the way to Christmas, baby. Maybe take a week off and then go into Clayton season. So we got a ton of content going on. They're filming it right now. If you didn't watch my video earlier, there is a chance that members of IATSE union go on strike, which is the main union of the below-the-line workers for Bachelor. So it's actually a very fascinating story. It's so pertinent to all of our livelihoods when it comes to bargaining for rights as employees, especially during a global pandemic. There's so many different strikes happening. John Deere workers going on strike, Kellogg's employees going on strike. This is a strike that's going to affect maybe 100,000 people, and it could delay Bachelor. They literally might have to send Gabby, this is Gabby, they might have to send her and the rest of the people home, including The Bachelor and Jesse Palmer and everybody. If they go on strike, they're not going to put them up in hotels. They're going to cut production, and it's going to delay the season. We'll have to see how it all goes down. So go to my previous video and check that story out. It is very fascinating. It might not be salacious like some of the Piper and Dale Moss and all those other stories, but it is fascinating information what's happening in the world that we know it. What an interesting time to be alive. So we'll get into this. I'm going to play for you guys the clip from Blake's podcast as they talk about Gabby and their relationship. But also don't forget, I've got content available only on Facebook. I have a new video update, quick 5-minute video about what's going on. Just did Reality Steve's podcast. We'll get into all of that. So before I play Blake's content, Dean talked about his ex, Gabby, on his podcast last week and called her the second love of his life. So some of the comments here on Reddit after people watched that were not happy. I actually, from my perspective, I just thought he was being nice about his ex, talking about her. But then people kind of brought up the fact that he doesn't even follow his current girlfriend on Instagram. They have no plans of getting married. So I feel like a lot of people don't like when they see other relationships kind of stall out, and that's what they might think is happening here. I just really want Dean to have a taste of his own medicine. I need Caitlyn to go on a podcast and talk about how her ex was the one that got away, or even how good Blake Horstmann was in bed, even if it's a lie, so Dean can see how it feels, LMAO. And that got 451 upvotes. I bet you Blake's pretty good in bed. He's a DJ. He's used to spinning on the ones and twos, right, ladies? All right, there it is. DJ Flick the Bean, right? All right, so we'll get into all that. Let's have a listen here, and then we'll talk about the beef in whether or not it's settled between Blake and Dean. Here we go. Have a listen.
Well, before we get into this recap, obviously we're going to go over, like Blake said, a few of Michelle's contestants. But before then, there's been a lot of hype around one contestant on Clayton's new season, Gabby.
Yeah.
So this is, I love Dean, love you, love Gabby.
Eric knows us all.
But here we go again. Apparently, you know them all too very well.
Yeah.
So any history between you and Gabby in the past?
So me and Dean tend to somehow...
You guys like to dip your toes in the same water.
We like the same girls, man. So I didn't know Dean until obviously like 2000, that would have been 18. But Gabby was a good friend of one of my very good friends from college. They were roommates. So I met Gabby long before I was on The Bachelorette. Like I want to say maybe 15 or 16. We hung out for a little bit. So I know her very well. And Dean, I don't know how it came up, but one time me and Dean were sitting there. I think we were in Buffalo, and he mentioned Gabby, and I was like, "How do you know Gabby?" And he was like, "Dude, she was like my girl in college. Like, we were in love and blah blah." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I know Gabby. We hung out for a couple months. Like, it's just crazy how me and Dean somehow get exes in Bachelor Nation. Like, great for us, But I will say, as Dean said on his podcast, he thinks she's going to go really far, and I do too. You've actually met Gabby as well. You know Gabby.
Oh, yeah.
You've hung with her a couple times.
Yeah, because obviously, like, my history with the NFL stuff, so I like She was a Denver Bronco cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
Know her through other mutual cheerleader friends. I totally agree with Dean. Like she's fun. She's awesome. It's going to be really hard for America not to like her. So I think as well, she's going to go very far.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I agree with Dean. And the biggest thing, I think she's fun. She has a very outgoing personality, very loud. Like she's when she walks in a room, she's in a room. And now you never know if the lead is going to be into something like that. You never know, if they like the more shy, quiet type or the loud, outgoing type. But she's definitely very loud, very outgoing. She has a lot of friends. So if Clayton's into that, I see her getting hometowns for sure. She's a beautiful woman. And I agree with, they're going to have, what their storyline is going to be. They're going to have the football player, cheerleader storyline, like we talked about going back to the roots, man. That is like the roots. So I wouldn't be shocked, man, if she's F2.
Your host now is an ex-football player.
Ex-football player, Jesse Palmer. You're so right. I would not be shocked.
This is Varsity Blues all over again.
Seriously, like we're going back to
I want to see Gabby come out in a whipped cream bikini. I'm just kidding.
Dude, that's a good Varsity Blue right there, though. That was a good call. I love that movie so much. Listen, I wouldn't be shocked if she's for sure hometown, makes it maybe even top 2. Yeah, maybe even Bachelorette, man.
How funny is it that we are talking about a contestant on the next Bachelor, and we're about to probably talk about that Bachelor right now of Michelle's season?
Yeah, that is super weird. So let's get into it. Yeah. I just hate that me and Dean now for some reason have another. She's not exactly my ex, obviously. She's way more Dean's ex, but it's just funny. Me and Dean, I DM'd Dean. I was like, man, what the fuck?
Here we just have good taste in
Jeez,
women.
man. I swear, man. I've had women who I've dated in the past. They reach out to me and be like, hey, a producer from The Bachelor reached me. I swear they're in my follows. They go to my follows and they see who I follow.
All right, so that's how you have it, folks. The producers are just poaching off their exes. Well, and listen, I'm not trying to make this conversation as if Kaylin or Gabby aren't fully capable of their own decision making. It takes 2 to tango. What's interesting is that Blake dated Gabby. He says they weren't exes. He says they hung out for a few months. We know what that means. Well, that's a fun time too. And like he said Gabby was roommates with one of his friends. That's always fun until it no longer works out. Because then it's like, well, I guess I need new friends now. What's the saying? Don't shit where you eat, or you might get poop in your food, is what they say. All right, that's the saying. Never get Indian food too far from home. All right, here we go. Let's move it along. So spicy. So we went over what Dean had to say about everything. Now let's just quickly go over the history here. Dean and Blake have another mutual ex, and she's joining Bachelor Nation. So that's what we just saw. Yeah, she was one of Dean's main exes, as in a more serious ex. She was my girlfriend from college, Dean said. Producers called me and were like, hey, we're thinking of casting this person. What do you think of her? We know that you dated 10 years ago. So I guess the question is, did the producers just know everyone's exes so that they want to keep the storyline? Because that's pretty smart of the producers to want to keep the storyline sort of connected, vetted through each other. I'm not really sure how that goes down. Now, of course, we have Bachelor in Paradise's Dean accusing Blake of slut-shaming Kaylin with text. This is only a couple of years ago. Blake released a private text message between him and Kaylin following a dramatic episode of Bachelor in Paradise. Now, as we know, Blake was in the moment being accused of emotionally abusing Kaylin on Bachelor in Paradise because of the storyline kind of made it look like he was using her and then moving on to another relationship. He released his text messages, which you can find them all online. We've covered this story extensively, to sort of clear up his own name, to essentially say, hey, she was coming after me. And in the text message, it showed Kaylin saying like, I'm coming over, and Blake going, no, don't come over. And she goes, I'm in an Uber. I'm coming over. We're going to hook up. We're going to have sex. It said all of that. It was kind of jarring. And of course, it would be very embarrassing to have those text messages read out. But at the same time, what was Blake supposed to do? And a lot of people hated Blake at the time. And I think people have changed their opinions about it and understanding he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He was being accused during like the height of the Me Too movement of doing some real egregious things. So he said, look, I didn't do those. She came after me. I told her not to come over. She got in a cab. She came over. Dean said publishing and publicizing private text messages without the consent of the other person as a public figure is one of the most disgraceful things I think he could possibly do. I think it's almost equivalent to sharing someone's nudes. Sharing someone's nudes is illegal. That's called, I believe it's called revenge porn. There might be a legal term to it. So it is it is almost equivalent to, yet also very much not equivalent to. You never enter into a text conversation with anyone expecting them to screenshot and advertise them. But on Blake's end, you also don't go on a TV show expecting someone to mischaracterize what actually went down, and then you have text message proof of what actually went down. If you got in a fight with someone and they were just blatantly misremembering it, you'd go, no, I have it on here. I got a stenographer literally timestamp saying exactly what happened. Let me know what you guys think about all that. I'm not here to take one side or the other. It just seems if a dog, in this case Blake, is put into a corner, it's going to bite its way out of that corner. And he felt like, whether you agree or I agree, but he felt like in that moment he was put into a corner and had to share exactly what went down. But then Dean says he's going back and picking the specific things he wants to share to prove his truths and paint the story that he wants to paint. That's really messed up in my opinion. When he's able to go back and curate exactly what he wants to and paint the picture that he wants to for his audience and for his followers and gain the approval of all these strangers, he's able to pick what he wants to say. I mean, in my eyes, he wasn't trying to do that for his followers. He was trying to do that to sort of crisis manage a very ugly situation that he found himself in. And after reading the text messages, it seems like most people didn't then, it sort of absolved him of all the accusations that were going his way. So it put out the fire, but it also, with Bachelor Nation, a lot of people in Bachelor Nation can be very toxic, immediately then use that to shame Kaylin. And it's like, she shouldn't have been shamed there, but the truth should have come out. And I don't know of another scenario, honestly, that he could have done to get that out there. Maybe my thought about this, and I know it's not really pertinent to the story, my thought about this was, instead of sharing the information publicly, share it with like other trusted members of Bachelor in Paradise. Share it with them and then let them say, I saw the text messages, here's what actually, that way you're not actually sharing it, but it's like at some point, no one's going to believe it till you go, hey, this is what it is, this is what happened, and that's what he did. Let me know what you guys think. At the time, I mean, everyone saw this in so many divisive ways. I remember at the time, people getting mad at me for even wanting to hear what the truth might have been, because everyone was like really like, no, it was so cut and dry what went down. And he shared the screen grabs to say, actually, not really. Like I wasn't a predator here. I was literally saying, please don't come over. And if anything, he could have cried foul that she was coming after him without his consent. Because she did a go to his place without his consent. Anyway, it was a fascinating story. So then to find out that Dean and Blake have another sort of web to their, or sort of like connective tissue here. It's pretty interesting. So we'll have to see what happens with Gabby. She seems to be a catch by all standards. Blake says she will be F2, which means she will be the first runner-up. F2 means she either gets stood up at the altar or doesn't make it that far. That usually is what the next becomes the next Bachelorette. Of course, a lot of people want Natasha to be the next Bachelorette. Kendall is pushing to be the next Bachelorette, so there'll be a lot of options. But if this relationship, if she comes off in a good light here, maybe she'll be a contender. But then again, who knows? Maybe she's just not Clayton's type. As far as the whole like Varsity Blues reference, hilarious. If you haven't seen that movie, hilarious. You'll never look at whipped cream the same way. Time to get some. I hope you're not lactose intolerant, because that whipped cream isn't gonna lick itself off. Okay, come on, folks. So let me know what you guys think, and it'll for sure be an exciting season. I mean, assuming that Bachelor crew doesn't strike, the show will start in January, so we won't see these storylines play out for several months. But there they are. They're already talking about it. The incestual Bachelor Nation world lives on. Unless there's any crazy breaking news, this will be it for me today. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Good night, everybody.